Hello, you are most welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to your power behind the voice on Tuesday Night Anatomy with Daniel Oakman. Today's meeting, yes, we continue our series regarding the anatomy of clinical importance. And my friends, today I take you through that of the radial nerve, okay, the various levels of injury that, of course, we can encounter as far as the radial nerve is concerned, and of course, what the clinical manifestation is going to be, okay, so that we can help with, of course, the differential diagnosis. For instance, helping us to know which level, okay, the injury, okay, is. And so, without wasting my time, let's set the ball rolling. Understand that if you look at the radial nerve, yes, one of the things that I've done already is to take you through something we call the brachial plexus, okay, that plexus of nerves, which we eventually supply, yes, not only the upper limb, yes, that of the thoracic region also, not only motor supply, but also cutaneous supply, okay, to these areas. So if you've not watched that video, you can quickly get into my playlist, yes, that of the upper limb, you get some of these videos to watch. But my friends, today's meeting, we are looking at the clinical application of it, okay? How, of course, clinicians will help, okay, do that kind of differential diagnosis. First of all, if you look at the radial nerve, its root value, yes, one thing we are aware is that it will have contribution, okay, from all the levels of the brachial plexus, the origin, by way of the roots. So from C5 to T1, okay, that is, of course, the root of the brachial plexus, the root value. Now, one thing that we know is that I told you, okay, in one of those meetings with you, that of course the terminal branches actually, of the brachial plexus, yes, mainly we'll be seeing them in the axilla, in the armpit. And so one thing is that, yes, from the neck all the way, we are going to see the terminal branches and including this radial nerve I'm talking about in the axilla. It will be in the axilla, in the armpit. Now, from the armpit, what happens is that it will come all the way, go posterior to, of course, this shaft of the humerus. Okay, and that is why sometimes we say if there's a mid-shaft injury of course, the humerus, which nerve is most likely going to be involved in that injury, we know the answer is, of course, the radial nerve, because we know that after exiting the axilla, it will come all the way, it will run behind this, of course, shaft of the humerus. Okay, and then from there, remember that it will be going laterally, okay, to be going laterally where the thumb is, okay, that will be the direction. So it will run all the way and then come laterally. This time around, it will come in front, okay, of what we call the lateral epicondyle of what we call the humerus, lateral epicondyle of the humerus. From the axilla, yes, goes behind, okay, posteriorly, the shaft of the humerus runs all the way, yes, we know it to be running through something we call the spiral groove. Okay, and because the radial nerve is an important content of the spiral groove, we know that's the reason why we call that groove also the radial groove. And then as it runs laterally, yes, it will go in front of the lateral epicondyle, not behind, but in front of the lateral epicondyle. And then from the level of the lateral epicondyle, it divides into two. It divides into something we call a superficial branch, and of course, a deep branch. We know something that a deep branch actually pierces the spinator muscle. Yes, so it's going to give motor supply to the spinal muscle itself and also supply what we call the extensor compartment muscles. So I'm coming to these things. And now for the superficial branch will be cutaneous in nature. So to be supplying something called the lateral 3.5 portion of the dorsum of the hand, okay, excluding the nail beds, because we know that nail beds will be taken care of by something called the median nerve. Okay, so that is first thing I want you to understand. Now, so please pay attention here. First of all, this radial nerve in the axilla, in the armpit, it gives off a branch. Now, this time, I'm going so basic so that we can really appreciate it. I'm not going much into that detail. Okay, it will give motor supply to one of the hairs of what we call the triceps. Okay, yes. Now, one thing we know is that once it gives off some kind of branches, okay, to the head of the triceps, then it also runs in the spiral groove and also supplies the triceps. Now, first of all, so just take it this way, that radial nerve in the axilla and also in the spiral groove, the important muscles, okay, that's going to supply will be the hairs of the tricep brachii muscle. Yes, mainly the one which will be having dual nerve innervation, which has, yeah, we know is the of course, the medial head, but that's why it's the largest head also. Okay, so we'll be getting double supply of the radial nerve, one in the axilla, and of course, one in, of course, the radial groove or the spiral groove. That's the first thing I want you to understand as far as this meeting, the clinical approach is concerned. Now, right now, I want you to understand that as far as the triceps brachii muscle is concerned, yes, something I described as the famous SHS, one of the SHS muscles, the famous SHS muscles that we have. Okay, one thing we know is that this triceps will be relevant in causing, okay, upon contraction, will cause what we call extension at the elbow joint. The prime function that I want you to understand, okay, will cause extension at the elbow joint. Okay, so there's the extended, upper limb that you can see over here. It's happening at this elbow joint. That's the first thing I want you to know. So it means that whenever there's injury to this, of course, radial nerve, okay, then of course, what is going to happen is that, yeah, the triceps, okay, will be involved. And whenever the triceps is involved, then what it means is that, yes, you will not be able, okay, to cause, that kind of powerful extension of the upper limb at the elbow joint. That's the first thing. Okay, so radial nerve in the axilla and of course in the spiral groove supplying the tricep brachii, and we've seen the action upon contraction of the muscle. What is going to happen? Extension at the elbow joint. It means that when there's injury to this nerve and then this, extension movement is not possible because triceps is paralyzed, then you'll not be able to perform this extension. You come with what we call a flexed elbow. Flexed elbow. First of all, understand these things. Now, the next thing is that we said that it will run, okay, go to the lateral aspect, okay, and then run in front of the lateral epicondyle. Now, please understand this. Before, and then at the level of the lateral epicondyle, then from there, it will divide into two, into something called a superficial branch, and I say superficial branch will be supplying the lateral 3.5 of the dorsum of the hand, excluding the nail base. That's what we've discussed. And we said that the spinator to also go there and do some supply. We'll be coming to these things. Now, before it runs in front of the lateral epicondyle and of course divides into two, it gives off a branch, and an important one that I want you to know for the differential diagnosis of the condition of the patient. Before it gets there, now there's this muscle over here which takes origin from something called the, lateral supracondylar ridge of the humerus. Lateral supracondylar ridge of the humerus. Now, one thing we know is that there are two musculature over there in the lateral supracondylar ridge. Okay, we have the brachioradialis. I'm not talking about brachioradialis. As far as the differential diagnosis is concerned, what I want you to know is to know about extensor carpi radialis longus. Extensor carpi radialis longus. Now, please understand the name. Extensor carpi radialis longus. Now, whenever we talk about carpi, and for that matter, carpus, we are talking about the wrist. And extensor, to cause extension, okay, at this ring joint. So what does it mean? Now, this is, okay, my forearm, this is the hand, this is the wrist area. Okay, so it means that this muscle is responsible for causing extension, and this is the extended portion, okay, showing you how the wrist gets extended. And one of the functions, okay, those muscles doing that, okay, and for that matter, one of the functions of that muscle is, of course, the extensor carpi radialis longus. There will be other muscles, but as far as the radial nerve is concerned, okay, looking at the differential diagnosis, I want you to know about that one. ECRL, extensor carpi radialis longus, going to cause extension at this, wrist joint. Now, it therefore tells me that if there is a radial nerve injury, okay, and for that matter, this, extensor carpi radialis longus, okay, doesn't get, supplied by it, then what will happen is that there may be that kind of weakness, or there will be something called wrist drop, and there's something we call wrist drop. So if you see someone with this, that is what we call wrist drop. And it could be because, of course, the supply that this extensor carpi radialis longus is supposed to receive is not getting it. So these are the two things I want you to understand. Now, from there, I said that it will run in front of the lateral epicondyle. Okay, so that is one thing that we'll be seeing. Now, this lateral epicondyle, from there, it divides into two. Now, when it divides, I've told you what the superficial branch is going to be. It's going to be cutaneous in nature. They're going to give cutaneous supply to supply the skin around the dorsum of the lateral 3.5 portion of the hand, excluding the nail base. I always want to emphasize that. Now, the next thing is that we also have, I said that, yes, the deep branch, okay, after piercing what we call the spinator muscle, the name will change. We don't no longer call it the deep branch, although it's deep, but continuation of the deep branch beyond, okay, what we call the penetration of the muscle, which is the spinator muscle, the name will be called the, the posterior interosseous nerve. Posterior interosseous nerve. So whenever you talk about posterior interosseous nerve, it's still a branch of this, radial nerve, but beyond is the deep branch of the radial nerve, beyond what you call, after penetrating what you call the spinator muscle. That's what I want you to become aware of. And so what it means is that we know that the spinator muscle is part of course, the extensor compartment, okay, of the forearm, one of the deep, muscles over there. So it's going to give that kind of motor supply to all the remaining extensors of the hand. Okay, so that's one thing I want you to do. No. Now, as far as the extensors of the hand is concerned, for the differential diagnosis, this is what I want you to become aware of. I want you to know about one other muscle, which I want you to single it out, although we are talking about all the extensors of the forearm, but I want you to know about this one, extensor digitorum. Extensor digitorum. Now, what does it mean? It means that if you have a muscle called extensor digitorum, then what it means is that they will help for you to cause extension, okay, of the fingers, extensor digitorum. So it means that if there's an injury to this, what do you call it? For instance, if there's an injury to the deep, branch, or even higher, wherever, we are going to look at these things. Then what will happen is that it will lead to something we call finger drop. Okay, so there's finger drop. So for your fingers, okay, to be straight, so that they are not dropping, then what will happen is that we need that the extensor digitorum will get that supply from the deep branch of what we call the radial nerve. Okay, so these are the things I want you to know. Now, right now, we are going to apply all these things, okay, to solve whichever question that you may have. Now, first of all, I want you to understand that there could be injuries, okay, happening to, of course, this radial nerve at different levels. Now, the first level which I want to talk about is the highest injury. Now, the highest injury, now sometimes some people may be paralyzed one way or the other, okay, may not be able to move, very well efficiently, and for this reason, they may need additional support by way of getting crutches. And so what will happen is that sometimes the crutches are not well fit, okay? They are so long and all that. And so they may be compressing this area. And because the radial nerve is in here, it is one of such nerves which can be injured. And that injury is therefore called crutch paralysis or crutch palsy. Crutch paralysis or crutch palsy. I want you to understand that. Now, this crutch paralysis, so if I ask you what will be the manifestation clinically, what are going to be those things? First of all, because it's a higher injury over here, and therefore everything down, okay, which is supplied by the radial nerve, yes, will be gone. And so let's see it. I told you about what do you call it? Tricep brachii muscle. So what is going to happen? First of all, there's going to be, a flexed elbow. Flexed elbow. Why? Because triceps is not receiving the supply. So it cannot cause extension. So flexed elbow. So a patient will come to you with a flexed elbow. So it therefore tells you that yes, there's an injury to the radial nerve, but likely going to be at a higher level. Okay? And then what is going to happen again? Yes, we said ECRL, extensor carpi radialis longus, yes, will be supplied, okay, before it gets to the, what we call the lateral epilongular, where it divides into two, superficial and deep branches. So it means that what is going to happen is that you also experience, because extensor carpi radialis longus has been injured, then what is going to happen is that you're also going to experience something called wrist drop. Wrist drop. Not only, flex the elbow, wrist drop. And as I told you, the deep branch, okay, which will continue as posterior interosseous nerve, which is going to supply all these muscles of the extensor compartment, posterior compartment of the forearm, okay, what we're going to see is that, and I told you about something, extensor digitorum. So extensor digitorum too will also be gone, and therefore the patient will also come with, of course, finger drop. And my friends, importantly, I told you about the superficial branch, which is going to give cutaneous supply to, of course, the lateral 3.5 of what we call the hand. Okay, excluding the nail base of the fingers. So what is going to happen? What it means is that there will also be cutaneous loss over here. So that's, first of all, the first injury that we've discussed. And I believe you understand that. Now, injury number 2. Now, oftentimes, some people may get drunk and then immediately they come, okay, they may just drop their arm this way, and of course, they will sleep, okay, on their chair, sofa, whatever. And so with that weight, okay, compressing, remember that I told you that the radial nerve will run behind what you call lateral, the shaft of the humerus. Okay, so in this case, sometimes some people may go for a nightclub, yes, oftentimes maybe Saturdays, and they may get boozed, they come home, and then they don't even get to their bed or, of course, sleep, very nicely. But they just drop their hand on their chair so hard, and of course, it compresses against this, radial nerve in the spiral groove. Okay, so what does it tell you? It tells you that, I mean, this condition, we can also call it Saturday night palsy. Saturday night palsy. That's one thing. Yes, oftentimes during honeymoon, okay, the man meets, I mean, the partner, okay, and the partner may even lie, yes, on the arm of the male. Yes, often affect the male, okay, so long that the place may get, I mean, the nerve will get really compressed. Okay, so what's going to happen? Then we can also call this condition honeymoon palsy. Okay, now remember that, I mean, even if there's a fracture over here, the same thing will be manifested. Now, something that I believe that, yes, it's not only, I mean, my what you call honeymoon period that will result in some of these things, but generally, males, okay, during the initial phases of, love, okay, with the other partner, will often experience this. Okay, so you may bring it a different name and then we will see that. Now, so that is the first thing I want you to understand, the name, animal palsy or Saturday night palsy. Now, when this happens, what do you think? Now, already we said that in the armpit, in the axilla, okay, I mean, one of the hairs, yes, mean the medial head will get supply, okay, over there before. And so when this happens, what it means is that, and even in this spiral group, there's also going to be some supply to, of course, the remaining hairs of what we call, I mean, the triceps, including the medial head again. But we are not looking at that, okay? So what it means is that some of the head of what we call the, I mean, triceps will have received supply over here. The remaining perhaps will not have received it. So what it tells me is that at this level, what will happen is that the patient will not really come with what we call, what do you call it, a flexed elbow. You ask the patient to, of course, cause extension, okay, of the upper limb at the elbow joint, and the patient may be having difficulty doing that. Okay, so there will be difficulty in elbow extension or weakness in elbow extension. That's the manifestation we are going to see. Unlike in the case of the cardiac paralysis, where there's complete flexion, this time in the case of the honeymoon palsy, or in the case of what we call the Saturday night palsy, there's going to be weakness in elbow extension or difficulty in doing that. Please understand that. And the remaining points will be the same. And what do I mean by remaining points? Yes, because ECRL, okay, wouldn't have been supplied, yeah, the same thing. There will be, of course, wrist drop. Yes, as I told you, the deep, I mean, branch, posterior interosseous nerve, yes, going to supply extensor digitorum. There will be finger drop. Okay, and then also because, of course, this superficial branch wouldn't have been given, then what's going to happen is there will be loss of cutaneous supply to, of course, the lateral 3.5 aspects of what we call the hand, dorsum of the hand. So please understand this. Now we go to the third case scenario. Now in the third case scenario, what is happening is that there could be an injury, okay, for instance, to, of course, the lateral epicondyle, lateral epicondylitis, or let's say if there is that kind of, I mean, fracture of the lateral epicondyle, then what will happen is that the nerve that is going to be affected, yes, as I told you, it will be running in front of it. The nerve will be running in front of it, and so it will be injured. But remember that here is the case that by the time it gets to the lateral epicondyle in front of it, it would have given supply to, of course, the triceps or the hairs, and then also ECRL, extensor carpi radialis longus. So what does this tell you? Now, it therefore tells me that the manifestations that we are going to see clinically will be that the patient will not come with a flexed elbow. The elbow is well extended. You ask the patient to extend it. The patient can extend it. There's no problem with, I mean, the extensors, no problem at all. Now, number two, there will not be any problem by way of the wrist. There will not be any wrist drop. There will not be any wrist drop. But my friend, there will be finger drop. Why? There will be finger drop for the reason that at the level of the lateral epicondyle is that level that it will be divided into a superficial branch of what a deep branch, which will eventually, be supplying the extensor digitorum. But please understand this. Okay, so it tells me that there will be, yes, finger drop, and then also there will also be what we call this, loss of cutaneous sensation. So please understand these things. Okay, so that's the third case scenario which I want you to understand. Now, the final one which I want you to take home, okay, with you, is that there could be an isolated case of injury to something we call the posterior interosseous nerve. So the posterior interosseous nerve could get injured, okay, independent of, the main division, okay. So for instance, in such a case, what it means is that the superficial branch is okay, So it means that there's no cutaneous loss over here. Okay, neither will we have difficulty in flexing the elbow, sorry, extend the elbow actually. Okay, because everything is intact. Okay, triceps, everything is intact. Neither will we have finger drop because it's intact, because ECRL would have been supplied. Okay, of course there will be what do you call it, there will be finger drop, for the reason that this time we are talking about an isolated case, okay, of what we call the posterior interosseous nerve injury. Yes. And so what it means is that at this time, where is the likely injury going to be? Usually when there's a fracture to the head of the radius. Fracture to the head of the radius often results in an isolated case of injury of the posterior interosseous nerve, or the deep branch of what you call the radial nerve. Okay, so please, I want you to understand that. So what would be the differential? The only thing is that there's going to be finger drop. That's the key thing. No wrist drop. No, flexed elbow. Okay, but one thing that we will be seeing is that there will not be any cutaneous loss. So you tie the patient's lateral 3.5 aspect of the dorsum of the hand, and there's no cutaneous loss. And then it means that you've been able to do, of course, the differential diagnosis. Know that yes, this time is an isolated case of posterior interosseous nerve injury, mostly with fracture of the head of the humerus. Yes, and not an injury of the lateral epicondylitis or fracture of the lateral epicondyle, that we have over there. But with that one, both cutaneous and of course, finger drop will be manifested. So my friends, this is what I have for you today by way of the power behind the voice, looking at the clinical, application of all these concepts of anatomy that we've done. Okay, we want to bring all these things close to, of course, the clinical setting. I'm very grateful for your time this evening. Have a good night, all of you, and may the good Lord richly bless you. Amen.